this computer?
Hmm.
Oh, it just said recording in progress. Great. So we are now recording, and thank you all for being here. Say that again. So I'm really excited to have Allan come and share with us today about his experience. But before we do that, we're going to do a couple of book giveaways. And of course, you already have my book. If you already have it, then you can give it to somebody else, somebody who you think might be interested in it. But let's see. Maybe, Tom, do you have any names written down? Oh, Pallavi, you want to go first?
I have some names written down.
So
okay, I only have about 10 names. Is that okay? Or
I think I have about
I could write a few more
20
if you want to
maybe.
stall for a little time.
okay, so we'll let Pallavi go first because she has 20.
Why don't you go?
Yeah.
And Tom, we're going to do 2 raffles for books. We'll do one at the beginning and then we'll do one at the end. All right, so you're going to stick around. So Pallavi's got all her names. She can do it. She's like busily getting it ready, and she is going to pick a name out of the hat, and then because you're going to get a free copy of my book. Okay, we ready?
Yeah, we're ready. I have a nice little box here with all your names in. I'm going to pick one. Okay. It's Martin.
Martin.
Martin is the big winner.
Yay! Martin, you there?
Second. Hello.
Yeah, there he is.
Hi.
Martin, you're lucky guy.
Give me a second. Hi. Sorry, I'm at the office. I'm just walking up the passageway. What did I win?
You got a copy of my book.
Amazing.
So I'm sure you already have one, but you can give it to somebody else.
I do. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to do it again at the end, and so stick around because there's going to be another raffle at the end.
Okay, I'm going to have to turn my camera off, but it's lovely to see everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being there.
Certainly.
Right. So let's see. Wow, there's so many people coming. I'm so excited. So I wanted to introduce Allan, who's kindly come to speak for us. Now, I only know a little bit about Allan's story, so I'm like you guys. I'm really intrigued to hear what he has to share. All I know is that from what I wrote in the group, that he's been, was diagnosed with MS, 35 years ago? And
yeah. 40 years now, 40 years.
Wow.
Woohoo!
Amazing. And
it's an anniversary.
For all of us. And the other amazing thing is that you met Sid Banks and you knew him, for quite a few years, right? So I'm going to hand it over to you because I'm really excited to hear you share your story and your experience. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much. You guys all hear me? Am I choppy at your end? You guys are a little bit choppy at mine, so I just shut down another computer. I'm hoping that helps. Yeah, so here I am, 1978, right? And I'm with a group of people that is run by Roger Mills. Some of you may know Roger, or may have heard of Roger, I guess. One of the first people to really take Sid into heart. So we're all trainers, and Roger says, I met this guy up in Salt Spring, and you guys might be interested in hearing what he has to say. So, I'm sort of a, party guy, follow along, just show up, right? So I go up with 13 other people to Salt Spring, and there are, a small room on St. Mary's Lake, and there's a group of us, maybe 20 people sitting, listening to Sid. So Sid starts to talk, and I got to tell you, as soon as Sid opened his mouth and started to talk, my mind shut off. It just got quiet. There was a place in my heart that opened up so wide that I started taking in the truth of what he was saying rather than trying to figure it out and justify it and make sense out of it. Because the way Sid talks, he just doesn't make a lot of sense. A lot of time, he makes a lot more sense in his recent work, right? In the beginning, it made no sense at all. So I just knew it was true. I knew what he was saying was true, and that he had experienced something that was true. So, from that point on, this group that went up to meet him changed in their various ways, and we started changing the way that we trained people. We used to do public workshops, relationship, divorce, that kind of stuff, and we totally changed the way we did those things, and that was a rough time because people were expecting content. They were expecting conceptual ideas, things they could hang their hat on. And, there we were all of a sudden not giving them exercises to do in the group, sitting across from each other and talking about various things. And it was, those times were hard. And that program eventually disappeared just because there wasn't, people came to our workshops to hear solutions, and we weren't giving them solutions. This is the way I like to think of it. So we were telling them how to make their life better, how to think differently, how to understand what they were going through in their relationship. And what all of a sudden we were doing is we were presenting what is. This is true. This is what's real. This is you. This is what's true about life. And people didn't want to hear that. It's like, I don't know what it's like. It's like going, it's like leaving the concrete industry and going into the spiritual industry. I mean, it's just too much of a shift for most people. And then over the years, I wrote Perfect Misfortune, first edition. There are 5 editions of this thing now, and the 5th one is got a great foreword by Jack Pransky. The reason I'm saying that is because the 5th one is 30 pages short than the first one, shorter. I got more simple as time went by and more focused. It's more about what is rather than how to. And I was diagnosed with MS, and I'm 86, although I had my first symptoms in 1980. In fact, I can tell you the exact stressor I was going through that caused this disease to start. And the very day I had my first symptom and the stress I was going through. So I have a specific time, date in my mind when it started. I don't know what I want to say about that. It's been this last 40 years have been a journey, and I want to be relevant to you guys because I know that some of you, maybe most of you here, have issues with chronic pain, and I want to be relevant because my health is okay now, although MS is nibbled to the point where I don't have the stamina I used to. I can't help with the yard work, Maybe that's good news. I don't know. Not for my wife, it isn't. But I can't help with the yard work as much because I get weak. I get so weak I have to sit down. And I have a little double vision here, and I have aches and pains that are probably age related rather than MS related, but you can't tell. But I know there are people in this group that have various serious pain in their life, and I want to be relevant to you guys. What I know is that encountering Sid gave me the experience of finding a place inside myself that was safe, that was truly me, not just this idea that Allan Flood has in his head and has accumulated over the years. It was truly Allan, and that space was healing, and that's before I had any MS symptoms. So I had that as a memory. And I knew it was valuable, but I turned to that memory and that experience again after I was diagnosed. The first time, my first exacerbation was really scary, and I remember going slowly numb from my feet up my legs up to my thighs. Couldn't walk up the stairs. Starting to lose some vision. And I don't have very many miracle stories, but for me, this is a miracle story. So my legs are mostly numb. I don't know when it's going to stop because it creeps, it keeps creeping up. And I turned to what I had learned from Sid, turned to his materials and listening to his tapes, and that healing space that I found way back then. And one night I was lying in bed and I had a dream, and the dream was that I was lifted up into the clouds, and in the clouds there was rain, and the rain washed me clean, washed me entirely clean, so that when I woke up I thought, I'm clean. I'm clean. I don't know what this means, but I have just been washed free of whatever's going on with me. From that day on, my body started getting better and finally healed to the point where um, the numbness, except for a very little bit, was gone. Like I said, I don't have very many miracle stories, but that's one that has stuck with me. So I know that dreams can be powerful, and our subconscious can be powerful. Um, I know that what we believe in our hearts, excuse me, is powerful. And the studies on recovery, remissions, remarkable recovery. Oh, this is a book I just love. This book. If you guys, Remarkable Recovery by Hirschberg and Baroff. I don't know if any of you have read this. It's an older book, but it's so hopeful. It's science-based, hopeful, and it has a great story about healing from MS, which is why I love it, of course. A woman that had a spontaneous remission. So for me, it's about doing whatever I can, understanding whatever I can to find a healing state. And the healing state is quiet, it's peaceful, it's filled with knowledge and confidence and understanding. And when I can find that state, I know that my body is doing its darndest to heal. It may not have enough brains to heal. We all have our genetic intelligence, right? These little cells, they're sitting in there. They know what to do, but they might not know quite enough to heal us, but they might. I've learned to, well, like right now, so I'm looking outside at nature, outside my window, these trees. Allan Flood is conscious. That tree is conscious. That squirrel is conscious. And we share the same consciousness. Life shares consciousness. Life shares consciousness. So when when I'm in nature, I feel connected to that. And there's something about that consciousness that I think, hope, believe is permanent, is forever. It's always there. When Allan Flood gets upset, when he gets sick, when he's in pain, it draws him away from that, but it doesn't have to. It draws him away from that. If he can find that again, then his body will be doing the best it can to heal. I had an interesting experience. So I had this procedure, old man procedure kind of thing. But anyway, so they put me under anesthesia for the first time in my life. And it was such an interesting experience because it was like lights on, lights off, lights on. I was there. And then all of a sudden I wasn't there. There was nothing there. No white light, no nothing. I was just gone. And when I woke up from that, I thought, it behooves me to, if Allan Flood leaving his consciousness feels like that, it behooves Allan Flood to find the best life he can, because when Allan Flood's best life is gone, it's really gone. You know, it's gone. So it behooves me to pay attention to my state of mind and my healing and things that bring me peace, and not to get so caught up in the stories I tell myself. You know, all these insecurity-driven stories. Not to listen to them. And to move away from a conceptual understanding of the three principles, which I think of as gifts, not principles, gifts. Because Allan Flood, for decades, taught the three principles as concepts. You know, mind, thought, consciousness, definitions, circles on flip charts, right? You know, that kind of thing, conceptual. And it helps me to think of them as gifts I was given when I was born, and maybe before I was born, I suppose, I don't know. But anyway, what gifts I was given, and that I can use to create a healing state or tell myself insecure stories and be scared. So I have this understanding now that the conceptual understanding of the principles is okay, but it doesn't get us, I believe, what it takes to give our bodies the best chance to heal. And pain is the toughest, because pain tends to activate personal thinking. You know, when I hurt, I start wondering, what does that mean? What does that mean for me? What's my future going to look like? All this personal thinking stuff. And I don't know a way around that except to do this to yourself and say, "Up, there I am." There, literally, there I am. You know, step back, Allan. Step back. This doesn't necessarily mean what you think it does. Stop telling yourself that story. And I've also learned that to be authentic and vulnerable is really important with who you are. As you live your life, you know, live it authentically and with vulnerability, and try not to be insufferable, right? But be as authentic and vulnerable as a situation and the people will let you in your life. There's something about not denying pieces of yourself or the way you feel or how much you hurt that is extremely powerful, and it makes space for this other you, your soul, to strengthen and bring you information and love. You know, this needs as much love as I can take, right? So anyway, I feel like I'm kind of rambling now. So Hannah, what, do you have any thoughts? Does anybody have any thoughts?
I was just thinking how I'm really enjoying the calm, lovely feeling that you've brought into the room. It's so nice. I just was sitting back and I was thinking, I feel so peaceful just listening to you talk, which is a real gift. I mean, that is really, really beautiful. So what I was thinking as you were talking is, like, a lot of the people that I talk to in my work, anxiety comes up a lot. And like you kind of mentioned about how, you know, pain does produce a lot of self-talk, a lot of, you know, thinking, and it's normal and natural. It's not surprising. So I was wondering if you could talk a bit about how, you know, if you have that come up, what people always ask me, what do I do in the moment when that, the thinking, like the doubt, the what if the pain gets worse, what if it never goes away, what if it's gonna, you know, like maybe I've done something wrong to cause it. You know, there's a lot of insecure thinking starts happening. And so people are always asking me, what do I do? And so maybe you could talk about that. I think it would be helpful to people about, you know, understanding how the thought is actually working and how you experience it.
Awareness is healing. And as I become more aware of the triggers I have in my life, and more, I do this a lot, I noticed, the more forgiving I am of myself for going down the same roads I've been down before, the more I'm able to be authentic and vulnerable. That helps with anxiety. And this also occurred to me a few months ago. I was lying in bed and I was nervous about a grant that was due. I'm a grant writer, right? So I live in this state of constant deadlines and urgency and et cetera, et cetera. So in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was anxious, and I just let myself be anxious. And it occurred to me, you know, Allan, you're scared right now, and so what? And the so what, the so what just helped so much and continues to help me, you know, as I go through my day and get scared, because there's really the so what feels like it gives me so much strength to just not be scared anymore. In other words, I can be scared if I want to be scared. You know, free will, right? Free will. I can be scared. And I don't like being scared. And I've been triggered and I got a million triggers. And there you go. So what? So anyway, that's I know that's it's not, it might sound flippant, but it's not. When you take so what into your heart, that's pretty powerful. You know, so what, I am more than this fear. Doesn't mean your anxiety is going to go away. It might, right? You know, anxiety could go away, but it's like conscious anxiety is different from unconscious anxiety. You know, if I'm scared or afraid or anxious and I'm not conscious of the fact that I'm scared or afraid, then I do all kinds of stuff. I make all kinds of decisions. I go through the world and I create all kinds of chaos. But if I'm conscious of that, then it's kind of like, you know, I got this rock in my shoe and I'm limping and it hurts, but I know it's a rock in my shoe. So there's something about that that makes it a little less painful to limp, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want, like I said, I do not want to be flippant about anxiety, because, you know, it's the pits. Anxiety is not comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that as you take the gifts of the principles and, you know, Sid's experience and his peace of mind and humility into your heart, it gives you like an anchor that can help deal with the chaos of a life that hurts, that is inconvenient, that is life-threatening sometimes. You know, I believe, like Clytie Mills, Roger Mills' wife, she was walking with Hazel Foss, who was another person from a long time ago, decades ago. And Clytie had, I think she had ovarian cancer. And she was telling her friend Hazel about how horrible it felt. She was scared of dying alone. And this might have been before Roger, actually. Dying alone and in pain and all by herself. And Hazel turned to her and just as a side comment said, Clytie, you'll be okay, no matter what. And Clytie heard that, and that changed her attitude towards her own life. And she saw, yeah, that's true. I'll be okay, no matter what happens. So I think that's true.
So I have a question about sort of on that vein, if that's okay.
Sure. Who's talking?
This is Laura Romney.
Oh,
Laura
hi, Laura.
Hi. So I have a question. So this anxiety thing has really been hitting me lately because I'm an accountant for a real estate development project that's in some financial trouble because of the whole, lack of lumber and supplies and demand and the whole mess. And I'm the only one that stares at the numbers and is responsible for it all. So I know it's not me that's responsible, but I tend to take it very personally, and I lay there at night worrying about how are we going to fix this? How is this going to come out? Is everybody going to lose their money? And I mean, it goes on and on and on. So I'll get where I can't sleep at night. And I know I keep telling myself, hey, it's okay to be anxious. This is something that's a real thing. But any tools that you suggest to kind of get through those times, because I literally will feel like, I can feel my whole body in like a sense of fight and flight. Like I feel like ramped up, and I have a really hard time letting that go. So any suggestions to just, how do I process something that is a real, really quote in my mind, a true threat? I can't do anything about it, but it's really hard to let that go.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's what I'm thinking. When I'm anxious, I might take a couple of deep breaths, or I might go for a walk, or I might do, a number of things. And I'm sure there are things in your life that help too. Those are the how-tos. Those are the how-tos. The power in this is the what is. That's the power. And I think the difference between me when I was teaching the principles conceptually way back when, and the difference now, is that I have taken to heart the reality of mind and consciousness and thought as gifts to bring alive my experience of life. And tools work, and everybody has tools. I'm more interested now in taking in the reality, however it is I do that. You guys might have a better understanding of what that means to you, to take it in, I guess. I don't know. I'm struggling with the concept, which tells you right off that I'm way off base. But taking in the truth of this. And I think I was fortunate in that that's what hit me in 1978, was the truth of it. And I've never lost that. I pop I have some really old tapes that I pop in the car, just to touch that truth again. And I don't know, does that seem irrelevant to you, or is that, anything about that?
Yeah,
Helpful,
again, I
useful?
keep telling
No?
myself that sort
Woo-woo?
of thing, like, hey, and I kind of fall in that trap where I'm like, whoa, okay, well, things could turn around, things will turn around, and things have gotten better in some regards. So I know I can trick myself into thinking the worst case scenario is going to happen, but the reality of it is it probably won't, and it's just really hard to get out of that circular trap where I keep overthinking and worrying. But that's just me. I'm a super worrier, and I am trying to get better at that.
Yeah, my mom believed that if you didn't worry about it, it wasn't worth living for. That's what I grew up in, was a worrying mother, and I find myself doing this a lot. See, we each have our own triggers, right? We each have our own little ego learned ways of protecting ourselves from annihilation, right? Mine is worrying. I'd rather worry and then not worry, because at least worry tells me that Allan is real, right? And Allan isn't real. Allan's little ego just tries to protect itself by worrying. So I've learned to do this to kind of shut him up. It's okay, Allan. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to take it personally. You don't have to say those words. you know? So, yeah, and I know it's, we are so convinced that our personal thinking is creating a reality that is real. You know, and it's not. It's just, I think of Dickens once. He said something which sticks with me. Is he said, "So we're either open or we're closed. We're open or we're closed. If we're open, our consciousness is available for our senses and the world, and if we're closed, we're all locked up in our personal thinking. You know, it's just closed. It's closed. It blocks out life. Personal thinking blocks out life. Good news is it makes you feel important. You know, it makes your ego feel important. Bad news is it blocks out life. So there's a choice, huh?
Appreciate that. Thanks for your input.
Laura's question just reminded me of something, because often we can get stuck in the what seems real, like what Allan was just saying, like especially when it seems like we've got evidence, like, you know, like Laura's saying, like the company, you know, is having difficulties, or maybe your doctor said something, or we have an MRI, or there's, you know, I know for me in the past when it seemed like I had evidence, it was justified in getting all caught up in my thinking, because you can't say that's thinking, it's real. Look, I can point at the evidence. So Allan, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, like what, because people, I know we often think that that our experience is coming from our circumstances, when really it's coming from our thinking. So how could you help someone see that it's not the circumstances that are producing the experience?
I am either conscious in the moment or I'm not.
Mm.
I'm either awake with awareness in the moment or in my head.
Mm.
And you know, I really quit teaching the principles quite a few decades ago because it was hurting my understanding of the principles. It was hurting my understanding of the gift of the principles. I have a client in New York right now, and who has a lot of issues, and all we do is talk so that she doesn't know this, right? She wouldn't. She's a retired high-level corporate attorney, so she doesn't believe any of this stuff. but all I do is we talk, and her consciousness is freed up to go places that she doesn't go in her normal life.
Mm-hmm.
And she heals even for the few minutes that we're talking together before she gets caught up in her life again. So it's not, for me, it's not as much about the willful creation of form. It's more about just being awake and aware in the moment and allowing that gift, the gift of thought, to manifest. And I have my best ideas in the morning right after I wake up, before I remember who I am. You know, I have the best ideas right then. It's almost my thinking feels free.
Nice.
And my consciousness just manifests in free thinking. You know, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, but I know that there's a different way to live. There's a different way to live than Allan thought there was way back when. There's a different way to see the world, and it's easier. And the old world is still there, you know, still knocks on the door. There's still the triggers, and right when you think you've understood enough and are enlightened enough to not be triggered, guess what? You're triggered.
So does anybody else have questions? Where if you want to ask Allan some questions, or anybody else in the group?
I'll jump in.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Joy.
Hi, Alan. Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
I just love how you started, that you went from how to what is. And that's really, experiencing what you're experiencing and holding it lightly. Recently, I've been caught up a little bit about how powerful the subconscious is. And, Bruce Lipton's work, Red Braden, Joe Dispenza, Abraham Hicks, all about how you can create your reality or shift your reality or the power of belief. I'm just curious as to what's your take on that, because that was kind of my previous life. And now I've stepped in, I guess you would say, both feet with the 3 principles and understanding about just going with what is. And it's kind of a surrendering and not trying to push the river as to what I want to create, but being open to what comes to me. So I wondered if you could speak to that.
Well, I know, like in Remarkable Recovery, the book that I showed you guys, that belief is hugely important. Deeply held belief, hypnosis, belief can change health, can affect health as well. So deeply held beliefs are important. And I remember Sid saying once that if you can ever spot a game you play, your life will change. And if you ever, something like this, and if you ever spot the biggest game you play, which is of course your ego and insecure thinking, then your life will transform for sure. But even the little games, the little games I play, like not being good enough, not being smart enough, rata. If I see those, if I'm aware of those, they tend to not have me as much by the throat. But the beliefs I have, like about healing, I don't know whether I'm gonna be healed. I just don't know. I know I told you about that little miracle experience I had, so I know there are connections to consciousness and thought and belief that are healing and not healing. And I don't know what those are. And I have a hunch they're different for all of us. I have a hunch that the beliefs that I have in my heart, my deeply held beliefs, both help and hurt the ability of my body to heal. So I think that's true. And I'd rather not search for them obsessively. I'd rather not search for my triggers obsessively. Mostly what I'd like to do is be open and awake and aware and let my soul express in a way that helps me heal. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Part 2, I was just curious if you do any work as to changing your beliefs, or is it more of just a noticing and awareness and not putting a lot of effort into changing unhelpful beliefs?
this is, well, for myself, I only have one client, so I'm not working with a lot of people right now. I used to, but I don't anymore. I'm mostly concerned about being open and listening, and those beliefs can be triggers, and noticing when they come up and trying not to give into them, trying to let them pass, trying to be vulnerable and authentic with them.
That's helpful.
Yeah, I don't. Well, yeah, that's just for me. That's what I do. I mean, like I can stare at the Zoom screen right now, and I can see all your beautiful faces, and I can also look outside and see that aspen tree that my wife and I just planted about a week ago, and it's a little guy. It's growing like crazy.
Mhm.
That little conscious aspen tree out there. So there's I think there are different ways that each of us can let that consciousness express itself. And this client of mine hates nature. Hates nature. You know, lives in New York, hates nature. So this would not be her ideal view out this window, but it's mine.
Thanks, Alan.
So Alan, someone's written a question. I'm going to read it out for you. Okay. She says, it's a two-part question. She says, can you speak to feeling sad and guilty that I got myself to this place through misusing my thinking? I'm wondering if this loose diagnosis will ever reverse. And the second part of the question is, being a former athlete, I tend to go after things with willpower. So I find myself knowing I will beat this and will create a miracle, but then I see my symptoms are still there, getting upset about what I'm doing is not working. So.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, getting to be 74 years old has been a rude wake-up call as far as my body's ability to do stuff. And MS has also made it hard as well. And you know, what I would say is my ego's attached to skiing. It's attached to jogging. Those things I used to do are triggers now. And what helps is to mindfully be in the moment. I mean, because our egos will hang on to the beliefs that we have about how life should be, you know, with a death grip. With a death grip. You know, it's embarrassing for me to say that Allan Flood would rather suffer than let go of Allan Flood and feel better. And I mean, what an embarrassing thing to have to admit, you know. And I know that the person that wrote the question, you know, from my point of view, it's just evolution. You know, people struggle to hang on to their beliefs. Their whole lives, they struggle until finally at some point they just go, you know, I'm bored with this. Or if you're an alcoholic, you hit bottom. I was a drug and alcohol counselor for years. So you hit bottom with whatever drugs you have, and you decide, I'm not going to do that anymore. And just make a conscious choice. But it seems to take a long time. I mean, Sid was pretty fortunate. It happened in, what, 5 minutes? You know? The rest of us just kind of bump along. We get these little insights here, insights there, you know? But I think that expectations can be really damaging and healing. So there you go. I guess you could ask yourself, you know, what are my expectations about my condition? You know, are they hopeful, healing, or are they damaging, insecure, thought-driven expectations? You know, and just become aware. Well, that's a how-to, isn't it? I hate those. You know, that's not a what is, that's a how-to. But it's been useful for me.
Yeah. Does anybody else like to ask a question?
I would like to ask something. It was wonderful hearing your story a bit more, Alan. When I talk with people who are in pain, they often ask about how do you find that space of peace or of safety when you know that your body isn't safe in the end. You know, it can hurt or be broken or something can happen. And also, like when you're in severe pain, it can be quite hard to find this quiet space. And I often have trouble talking about it or in trying to help somebody to see it. And I would be interested to hear what you would say about that.
When my legs are so weak, I have to sit down. It used to be harder than it is now, but now it's kind of a what is place. And I'll have to sit down and do the next common sense thing, whatever that is. Yeah, it's be vulnerable, be authentic, do the next common sense thing, and you know, pain pulls people right into their personal thinking, and that doesn't mean that it hurts any less, but it might, because I know stress increases pain. So in fact, even the stress of doing some more yard work when I'm feeling weak, you know, the stress driving my ego to say, do some more work, help your wife. You know, that stress lessens my common sense. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? Mm-hmm.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, I agree. I got that below. Lynn says sadness is an illusion. It is. It is, but Sid was devastated when Barbara died, his first wife. He was devastated. It's an illusion, and doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. But the truth of it is that it is an illusion. I hate being sad. I've got a little sick dog, which some of you know because of the story I told and posted, but the fact is he's doing better. So I'm not sad anymore about my little dog. But, but yeah, sadness is, to be able to see the world without the feelings that you generate is a pleasure. And consciousness is love. And as far as I'm concerned, any other feeling is suspect.
That's a good one.
Yeah, write that down.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that one.
Right. I'm gonna write that down after this. Consciousness is love. Any other feeling is suspect. I think that's true. I think that's true.
I think we have time for one more question if anybody wants to ask.
There's another question in the chat, I think.
Oh yeah, from Gina. She says, how do you ask people to help you with things so they will help me? I still have the mind that I want to get things done in my yard, but my body pays. Gina, do you want?
That's we have, yeah, Nancy has a house that's becoming too much work for us. Now, I work on the computer 6-7 hours a day, and Nancy's outside working really hard. You know, property is getting to be too much, so that's going to be at some point a common sense decision. You know, got to sell, got to downsize, got to do something else, got to sit down, rest, got to try to make enough money to hire somebody to do the work. You know, and each one of those letting go of what we've built is going to be an ego thing. It's going to be an ego trigger. But there's also the good news on the other side of that. You know, that it won't be as much of a struggle as much as we love it.
I love that you've mentioned common sense quite a few times. That's one of my favorite things right now, is because I think common sense kind of went out of fashion. You know, right? And it's so nice to hear you talk about it, and how it comes when we're in a better state of mind. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, it's so easy. It's like I think I talked about when I have some of my best thinking right when I wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mind starts to get a little bit off base, and the common sense tells me to get out of bed, Alan, and do the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, common sense says, Alan, your legs are weak. Sit down. Common sense says, Alan, don't obsess so much about your little sick dog. Just do what you can and, you know, love it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, common sense and wisdom are the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So if nobody has any other questions, I guess we've got time for well, first of all, thank you, Alan. That was really, really lovely. I feel so peaceful right now.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you guys for letting me do this, because if you stay at peace, if you find a healing place and you speak, it helps you. And this is your journey. You know, this is not the journey of your significant other or the world. This is your journey. And so anything you can do from a state of peace will help.
Well, I really think you've helped. Well, you've helped me anyway. I can't speak on behalf of anybody else, but I feel really lovely and peaceful right now. And like Sid said, like, follow that feeling. So I really, really thank you for sharing that with us. You know, it's really been a pleasure. And it's really nice to get to know you a bit more. And so it's an honor. Thank you. So, sorry, my cat just came to join me and he's biting my arm right now. This is my love and cuddles. So we just want to finish with one more. We're going to give another book away. So Tom is going to do the honors. He has a box and he's written down the names of all the people who are here. So he's going to draw out another name. So Tom, off you go. Drum roll. Let's see.
Should I write your cat's name down?
Yeah, put the cat in too. Wait, go.
Exciting. This Lynn.
Oh wow, Lynn McCartney.
Yep.
Wonderful. So Lynn, I'm going to be in touch with you. I'll get your address and I'll be so happy to send you a copy of my book. That's wonderful. Yay, great. Well, it's been real, sorry, I've got company now. It's been such a pleasure having you all here. And here's to toast to another 2,000 people being introduced to the 3 principles, and God willing, it's helping you. And I really look forward to hearing all your comments, your posts. Please share what's going on with you, your insights. You know, we love to hear about it, because when I often ask people if they will share, they share things with me privately, and then I say, please share that with a group because I think it will be so helpful. And then people say yes, and then they overthink it, and then they paralyze themselves, and it doesn't happen. So just write. It doesn't matter. This doesn't have to be a Pulitzer Prize. Just like a couple of sentences sometimes will be so helpful to people when you have an insight and you see something that's helped you. You know, to share that with other people. That's what the group's for, to like, you know, just to, so that we can all feel a little bit better. So that's it. Thank you. gonna eat my hair now. So I've been ignoring him. So thank you, everybody. Hugs and kisses, and I'll see you all in the group real soon. Okay, bye.